You know, it's weird to me. Some people think that like maybe I'm turning against Xbox or something, which couldn't be further from the truth. I'm actually hopeful that Microsoft turns things around and that they actually listen to the fans and help save Xbox. But at the same point in time, it's going to be hard to really look at this and the news that's coming out and the choices that Microsoft's making, and it's kind of hard to go out there and think, hey, they're doing the right things, all the moves are right or whatever. And I understand that, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of things are kind of based on what, you know, a company's bottom line's doing and things like that. But I do believe, you know, that you have to make sure that, you know, gamers are at the forefront. If you're a gaming company, no matter what kind of company you are, you have to be able to have people that are understanding of what that thing is that you're supposed to be providing, right? So I've always thought lately, anyway, within the last decade or so, that Microsoft has had really poor leadership. I've not really made a secret of that. The thing is, I like the Xbox Series X. I like the Series S. You know, I think Game Pass is fine. It was a good deal. You know, some of the games that they're coming out with are solid. They're not spectacular, mind you. You know, then obviously there's the bad things that they're doing, the price raising of the consoles, the price raising of Game Pass. I mean, they really just leapfrogged what anybody thought we'd be. I thought in the next couple of years we'd be paying $25 a month, you know, but I thought they'd raise it $1 here or there. To leapfrog all the way to 30 is insanity. Something about this tells me that Microsoft really wants people on that second tier that's $15 a month, where you're not getting the day one games and no access to Call of Duty. I think they want to sell games. They realized a mistake that they've made, and you know, it's kind of clear they probably thought that they would do this pricing and that people would just bump down to the lower tier and that they would sell more games out of that, right? But I think they're probably kind of shocked that so many people canceled their subscription altogether. And, you know, again, they didn't make it a worthwhile. They thought, you know, probably some would keep it and they'd make more money. And then they thought probably some would, you know, subscribe to the lesser, because you need a tier of Game Pass if you game online. So, you know, that's just something that you have to kind of look at and just kind of point to and say, hey, well, that's, you know, where they kind of messed up. But this is also, I think, equally bad. And I think it's really just kind of showcasing how Microsoft is, you know, really they don't care about things. You know, it's just honestly one of those things that, you know, all gamers are kind of, I guess, united in, as far as I can tell, and upset about. So I do want to get into this bit of news as well. This is a pretty bad bit of information. I want to go ahead and get into it. Xbox ditches the majority of its Game Pass DLC discount as part of the service revamp. No more 10% off the DLC. So this is really, really bad. Earlier, people spotted some news going around about Call of Duty DLC no longer being discounted for Xbox Game Pass members. And after doing some digging, it appears to be part of a broader Game Pass shift from Microsoft. Basically, the majority of individual DLC packs for Game Pass games are no longer 10% off for subscribers, except for EA Play games, where the 10% reduction still applies because that's EA Play. Seeing certain bundles with 10% off, such as the premium upgrades for South of Midnight and Indiana Jones, but DLC for Game Pass titles is now showing up at full price, such as individual Order of the Giants expansion for Indy, which is now like the full price. It's worth noting that full game discounts of 20% for Xbox Game Pass titles is still up and running in most instances, but again, this is not looking good for you know, the DLC. I mean, I thought part of the whole point of having Game Pass was, you know, you get, you know, these games at a discount, you know, the DLC, all this kind of stuff at a bit of a discount. And the fact of the matter is, we're not really seeing that anymore, which is kind of a bummer, to be honest. We can't say, you know, that a lot of people took, you know, like for me anyway, like if it was something like that, I would take the discount. It was nice that discount was there. It was nice to have some sort of Game Pass perk for DLC, considering the content is always an additional purchase. It appears that the shift is to do with the new Game Pass overhaul, which has now moved this bonus to Xbox Rewards instead. Basically, Instead of getting 10% off Game Pass related DLC, members will now earn 10% back in rewards points. Going off a new description of the recent service revamp, here's basically what it's explained by Microsoft themselves, and I quote, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. With our upgraded rewards program, players can get up to 30% value on select Game Pass games with 4 times points on purchase of games and add-ons, 10% back in points on select Game Pass library titles and add-ons, and up to 20% off select Game Pass games. It's a little vague, but it's going easy to assume that based on spotting this and the broad discount of 10% removals, that the perk has been moved over to 10% back in points on select Game Pass library titles and add-ons. It's definitely a downgrade on just getting the 10% straight off, but there we have it. It seems Microsoft's new way of offering some sort of 10% is, really, really disappointing. Personally, like, if you were to ask me, I really feel like Microsoft should have anything first party should have DLC included, because if you look at it, right, like Gears of War 5, that did the DLC, the expansion was free. It was included with Game Pass. To me, it doesn't make sense. I know that they're trying to make money and they're trying to do this, that, and the other thing, but it just is frustrating to the extreme when these things happen, because we're starting to see how these companies are kind of starting to really nickel and dime everybody. That's really kind of the problem that I'm starting to see from this. And maybe Microsoft, I hope that they can do something to change this, but I'm not really sure exactly what they can do at this point, because gamers are already kind of flocking away from Xbox, and we're starting to kind of see how that could negatively impact things in in the end. So it really feels like maybe Microsoft is kind of doing some sort of end game. All the incentives to get people on board are being tied up and withdrawn because the recruitment phase of the service is over. Microsoft now hopes you'll simply keep your sub running and forget about it. I wouldn't be surprised to see an extra step or two put in to cancel it too. What's left of Xbox will need to be profitable, or they probably will cut it. I'm not sure exactly what the situation is there, but it does feel an awful lot like Microsoft is doing some of these things to kind of get people maybe not to sub, or they're doing these things to maybe get Microsoft to, like, I don't understand the thought. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, Microsoft as a whole is this huge company that's known to make lots of money, and they make this business decisions. Like, you have to have the customer first in your mind to be able to be successful, and I think that's the thing that Microsoft is really kind of failing to realize here. And the other thing is, I know a lot of people go, oh, well, it's not Phil Spencer making the calls anymore, but Phil Spencer literally only answers to 2 people in the entirety of Microsoft: Satya Nadella, Amy Hood. Those are the only 2 people that he could answer to. So if he's in this role, and he's actually the head of gaming, the entirety of gaming. So if you're a man, I'm a man, there's maybe some men that watch the videos or whatever, and you have this job where you're supposed to be in charge, but they're not taking what you're saying and implementing it, or taking what you want to do, and even though you have that position and they're supposed to trust you, then I'm not going to stay at that job. Like, Phil has been there long enough. He could retire with full whatever, because he's worked at Microsoft long enough to do that. And instead he's still there, and I've been saying it does sound like he'll probably leave soon, but I've been saying that for a couple of years now, and he's still there, collecting a paycheck, collecting these big bonuses and stuff like that. So obviously he has not spoken out against any of this stuff, has not said anything potentially that could help the situation, and that's a real problem kind of going forward. So I know a lot of you are probably thinking the same way that I am with this stuff. It's really disappointing to see, hey, you don't get the DLC, and especially like, hey, why wouldn't you get your Call of Duty DLC with a discount or this? That's an incentive to actually buy these things, these extra things, and I just think it's a real shame that Microsoft is kind of screwing everybody over with this stuff, and making it so people don't want to be a part of Xbox's ecosystem. So yeah, this is never good news in my opinion. I hope that we can get back to some kind of good news for Microsoft and Xbox soon. I would love that, actually, but it's really going to be hard saying if that's going to be the case at all anymore, you know? So hopefully it will be. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I will certainly link this in the description. If you guys enjoy my content and my videos, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Have a fantastic day. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.